Hey guys, I've had a request to do number 5 from the second triangle applications worksheet. And I love how every single video starts with what was in focus, going out of focus, and coming back into focus. This thing hates me. So here we go. Let's take a look at number 5. So I've already got it sketched. For those of you guys and gals that play baseball and softball, you might already know the answer to this one. Do your work anyway. Ha 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 ha. So number 5 is talking about a baseball diamond, which happens to be a square. So I've got mine drawn 90 feet around all of the edges with the different plates and bases, home plate, first base, second, third, and then the little dot in the center is the pitcher's mound, not drawn to scale. So the pitcher's rubber is located 60.5 feet from home plate on a direct line from home to second base. So basically, if we connect the pitcher's mound to home plate, and I know you can't see it, but it'll clear up, that distance is 60.5. And it didn't clear up. It will. Give it a second or a minute. Come on. I'm going to sketch the connection then from the pitcher's mound to first base. Oh, good Lord. And I know you guys would be telling me right now to hit autofocus lock, but it makes it worse. I miss my classroom. So there's our sketch. The distance from the pitcher's mound to home plate is 60.5. So a couple things that we want to be thinking about is that each one of those vertices, those corners, is going to be 90 degrees because it's a square. So I'm going to connect from the pitcher's mound to second base, and I'm going to focus on a couple of different aspects. I know the task is to find the distance from the pitcher's mound to each one of the bases, but we're going to focus on, and I'm going to grab my yellow highlighter, this left-hand triangle. And I'm going to name this distance from the pitcher's mound to second base X. And so we're going to focus on that. Focus is the word of the day with this dang equipment. So we could actually do kind of like a quick Pythagorean theorem here to work our way through, and I'm not sure if this is the way that I did it in the answer key. There's different ways to approach this. But if I focus on this yellow triangle and I do 90 squared plus 90 squared equals that whole distance squared, and I'm going to just call that D to be the distance from second to home squared, we could figure out that whole length and then subtract and find the distance from basically the pitcher's mound to second. So I'm going to grab my calculator, 90 squared plus 90 squared, and then I'm going to take the square root of that answer. And so that distance is 127.3 from, keep in mind, from second base to home plate. If we subtract off the 60.5, that will give us, if I could type right, nothing's changed for me, roughly 66.8 feet from the pitcher's mound to second base. And so that's one of the answers that we were seeking. So I'm going to put that here and label that. So now our next task is to find this distance from the pitcher's mound to first base, which will also be the same thing as the pitcher's mound to third base. So find one, you've found two. I'm going to name that distance Y. Now there's a couple things that we need to kind of work through in this process. This distance from second to home plate, cutting our diamond into two congruent pieces, is going to be breaking this at 45 degrees. And I'm gonna make that a little bit closer so you guys can see some of my numbers. and you don't necessarily see the geometry problem right above it on the same piece of paper. So we have to recognize that this is going to split this 90-degree corner right angle into 45 and 45. So now I'm going to get my pink highlighter that I just threw across the table. Don't worry, it didn't hit the dog. And so I'm going to focus on this triangle here. We need to know that distance of y. Well, we can work through a process with that because we have two sides and the angle trapped between. That's a law of cosines problem. So we can take y squared and set that equal to the cosine of 45 degrees, its angle opposite. And then I'm going to take the other two sides squared and add them together. I'm going to run out of room. Minus 2 times those other two sides. And again, I ran out of room, but you know, such is life. So this is now law of cosines, so I'll put my calculator screen there. We'll do 66.8 squared plus 90 squared minus 2 times 66.8 times 90 times the cosine of 45. Hopefully your calculator is still in degree mode. Now that's not our distance. Like, we aren't going to throw that far. We need to take the square root of the answer, because remember, got to get a square root in there. So that distance of y is about 63.7 feet. And I'm rounding, so give or take a little bit. And that is the distance from the pitcher's mound to first base and the pitcher's mound to third base. So hopefully that helps. The wiggles on my document camera are getting better if I kind of like focus in and zoom in on my page. So maybe there it went. Never mind. Okay, hope that helped you guys. Take good care of yourselves. Bye.